Yeah. I think we're up and running. Do. Okay, we got Rob and Lick. How you going, boys? We'll just wait for the other boys and girls to join us. Peter, how you going, Pete? You talking about the reverb on my voice or on my guitar? I'll probably turn the voice one down a bit. Probably a bit too much, maybe. What about there? It's just if I turn it off, it just sounds a bit too flat. Just gives a bit of space. Bit of space in the mix is a good thing. In fact, a lot of reverb on your voice, bro. On your both. Cool. How nice a day is it outside? I should be doing the stream outside where it's nice and sunny. We'll just give the other guys some time to jump on. And I'm assuming so I'm getting feedback from you guys on the thing. I'm assuming the stream is looking good and sounding good. And no glitches. Hopefully I've worked out my glitch issues. On Wednesday I did my first little practice session stream and it failed. Thanks YouTube. No, it wasn't YouTube's fault. But there was some really glitchy things going on. I had to stop it earlier than expected. But I think YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh, what? Experience buffering. I'm getting errors again. If someone can give me some feedback on what it sort of sounds like and looks like, that would be good. Profile high, main, baseline. I did some tests on this the other day and it didn't give me any errors, but for some reason, right now she's screwing up. So I might just turn some settings, see how we go. Stream settings. Looks smooth from our end. Okay, thanks, Leck. Alright, we'll just run with it, see what happens. Hopefully it doesn't give me any more weird errors. I'm assuming it's affected by how many people are on the interweb in my area. Too much Vox on the reverb. Alright, I'll turn that down a bit. Turn it down a bit. That should appease you a bit more, hopefully, Rob. Hopefully that's a bit better. Cool. So hopefully that will work. All right. So while I just wait for some other people to jump in, I'll just do a bit of a jam over this funky jam track that I found, which is really cool. If you're sitting at home with your guitar or your instrument or your drums, this tune is in the key of A minor. Everyone's had enough of that. That was quite a cool track. Once again, from my good friend from Elevator Jam Tracks. I don't know him, but he writes some good tracks. So I'm sure he would be my friend if I knew him. Cool. Okie doke. So let's get crack-a-lackin'. Okay. So today we don't have any guest visitors with us. I was talking to one of my mates before today. We'd probably do a dial-in Zoom thing next week, and it will be a lot smoother than it was last time because I will be more organised. So I'm hoping that the stream runs smooth today with no hiccups. I apologise once again for Wednesday's debacle with the freezing frames and all sorts of weirdness that went on. And hopefully this Wednesday will be good. On Friday I did my first free beginner's guitar lesson. I think a couple of my mates joined in on that one, so thanks for joining in. And spread the word if there's anyone out there you think would benefit from that. The only reason I'm doing it is just to be nice to everybody and help out, because I think we're all in a little bit of a state at the moment with being locked down, but I'm sure it's a lot better than some other countries. Afghanistan to be the first one that comes to mind, but I think even though some people do have it harder than us, I think that is good to keep that in perspective. But I don't think I'm two minds of this. Sometimes I think it is good when you're down in the dumps to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and go, you know what, I really don't have it that tough compared to some people. But sometimes that does undermine the things you are really going through, because yes, people I think are finding it tough, and I think by shutting communication down, either from yourself because you feel guilty for complaining about stuff because other people are going through worse times, or if we make other people feel guilty, I don't think that really helps. But that's just my 2 cents. So yeah. I'll shut shut up now. So what I thought it'd be good to do today, I've got a couple of people that sent me some things that would be good to cover, and I might just cover those. First of all. So Lex sent me a message asking about the 3 minor scales and when to best use them. I think that was I'm just looking at the post now. When referring to a minor scale, which one are they usually referring to? As there are 3 types. So that track I did there was in A minor. So there are 3. There's actually more than 3 minor scales if you include the modes. So we've got 3 minor modes as well. Really the Aeolian mode, which is the natural minor, is the same. So really, what does that give us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. And then they're probably more than that. If you ask someone who's got more education than me, they might enlighten you a bit further on that. But going towards Lex's question, which one do you use? It really depends on the music. That track then was in A minor, and I sort of switched between a natural minor and the Dorian, A Dorian, which is one of the modes. Sorry, harmonic. The difference between the minor scales, if we look at the intervals, this is just some nerdy theory stuff for people out there. So your natural minor is, if we look at the intervals in relationship to our major scale, we've got a 1, a 2, a flat 3, a 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, then a 1. The harmonic minor is a major 7. So we've got 1, 2, minor 3rd, and Tim just said don't forget about the modes of the harmonic minor. Once again, we need some people with a bit more musical education. So going back to the harmonic minor, harmonic minor's got a major 7 on it. So that's got a bit of a Middle Eastern vibe about it. You will hear Slash use the harmonic minor at the end of Sweet Child of Mine when he's doing the faster run. If you remember that solo. And like I said, really depends upon the chords being used. Most of the time, if someone's just referring to a minor scale, they're talking about the natural minor scale. And like I said, in that track that I was doing, it sort of leans towards a Dorian thing. So I was sort of working on those whole Dorian notes. Yeah, cool. So going back to it, so you've got natural minor, harmonic minor, and there's a melodic minor, I think, which has got it's got a major 6 and a major 7 in it. So it's 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, major 6 or natural 6, major 7, back to the 1. So that sort of gives it a bit of a different sound again. That to me is something you would hear some jazz fusion dude do, Holsworth or something like that. And Pete says, yeah, Richie Blackmore used it quite a bit. Malmsteen, harmonic minor all over the place, because that gives you that very classical sort of vibe as well. So I hope that answers your question, Lek. If it doesn't, feel free to talk to me and we can talk further about it. But really comes down to the chords happening underneath. So with that track I did, which was just, like I said, it's more of a Dorian natural minor thing, you couldn't really put not to my taste anyway. You couldn't really put a natural, like a harmonic minor over it because it would sound a bit weird. Because it's got more of a funky vibe. If I play a little bit more of it again and put the harmonic minor over it. I suppose it works. But you can make it work. You can make anything work, I suppose, if you end and start on the right note. But the biggest thing to remember with your soloing and what scale to use, it's all dependent upon the chords. I always tell students, think of the chords as the base of the song. The lead guitar is the icing. So if you have a nice sponge cake and you put Vegemite icing on it, no one is going to want to eat that puppy unless you're into that thing. And I'm not a big Vegemite fan. Cool. The other one was Shane. I don't know if Shane's watching. I can't see any comments. I'm assuming he might be. Economy of movement, which is a good question. So economy of movement is about minimising how much your hands move across the fretboard with the left hand and also with the right hand. I've heard people talk about it with the right hand as well. So economy of movement is minimising how much you're doing, probably to save energy and to save time with your transitions between notes. One of the things I learnt from watching some Brett Garsett legato stuff, he was saying when he does a line, he's hanging on that last note. Before sort of half bleeds it into that next note to try and make it sound smoother. And I probably do that to a certain extent. I find, like I said, and I probably said in a previous video, legato, I've got to warm up to it and have my head in the right spot to pull it off properly. But yeah, so economy movement, yeah, basically we don't want to have C fingerpole fingers sort of up in the air, because by the time you get your fingers down, you could be too late, or you're not going to get quick enough if the speed is your goal with your playing. And with the pick, economy of movement can do with pick transitions across strings, and not just doing strict alternate picking, but do like if you're going from one string to the next, you do two downstrokes. To me, that's too much thinking. Yeah, and it's probably laziness on my behalf too. I probably should sort of delve into that a bit more, but yeah. So Shane, I hope that answers your question. Cheers, big ears. So hope you got your coffee, your beer, your water. Well, I'm drinking beer today because I thought, why the heck not? I haven't even drunk any of it yet. One of these days, we will be able to sit round a drum kit with some guitar amps blasting, maybe a couple of keyboards or one keyboard or whatever, and have a jam and have a beer and eat something together. That would be cool. That would be very cool. We just need to get Gladys to let us off the hook so we can do that. Maybe they should make a special mental health exemption for musos to get together and have a jam. Maybe we should put a petition together and see how many musos we can get to sign it, so they'll let us out and have a jam. At least a jam. We don't have to. Yeah, gig would be nice, but a jam would be sufficient to get us over the line for the next 100 weeks, or however long were they going to decide to keep us inside for. All right, but keep your chin up. bad times don't last forever. Sometimes they just last a long time. All right, so back into what I've sort of meandered on there for a bit. For 26 minutes. All right. So the main thing I thought people might find interesting is something that I thought about sort of unpacking a little bit more, is my approach to the sound of the 6-string cricket bat, and all the different little aspects that I think goes together to give me a good sound that helps me play better. Because I think I'm a definite believer that if your guitar sounds good, you will play better. And if in reverse, if it sounds like poop, you will play like poop. And I've had plenty of times when you get up on a gig and you do a sound check. It's like, yeah, this is cooking, sounding mad. And you get up, something happens and goes south, and there's no returning sometimes. You can sit there and tweak all gig long and just doesn't work for you. So some of the things I've found both in the studio and in live, you might benefit from as I unpack this. So I've got 10 things that I thought go into my special sauce. Your special sauce might be a bit different. So we'll just go through it. And I think, like I said, whenever I'm at a gig, the biggest thing, if you're having problems with sound, is to have a clear head and not just to go for one thing. Expect that one knob or that one parameter to be the winning factor that's going to get you there. Sometimes you can reach over, and if you know where to go, you can go bang, okay, I've fixed it, done, sorted, my problem solved. But often it's not. You can be flustered, and it's like, yeah, frustrated, it's not working. You're trying to play this tricky song and your sound's just sucking. So you got to know where to go, basically. So 10 things. And if I was prepared enough, I would have written this out for you, but I'm not, so suck it. All right, so the first point is everything works as a system. Everything from the strings to the way my fingers operate on the day, right down the end to either the sound system that you're playing through if you're playing in a live venue, or to the speakers and the room. Everything and everything in between all works as a complete system. And I believe if you get the special sauce and the system right for your playing, it will work a lot better. We can leave a couple of things out, and that can be detrimental to what we're doing. So first thing, everything's a system. First thing to remember. All right, so let's go to number 2, because number 1 was pretty basic. I can't really talk long for that on what one. All right, so number 2 is the strings. All right, so strings, for me, have a big impact upon what I do. And you notice then I heard something that was out of tune and it put me off. So your strings. And I've got a bit of an OCD thing. I hate playing guitars where the strings are rusted and crusty and old, because it doesn't feel good under the fingers. It feels like sometimes when I pick up someone's guitar, it's like, it feels like I'm playing a chainsaw or a piece of barbed wire, and that can put me off. Some people can get away with that, but I can't. So for me, the strings have to be nice, and first thing, they need to be clean. If I've got gunk, because when you sweat, especially in summer, you sweat and you get junk underneath your strings and the string rusts, that will actually affect your intonation because if you add or take away material from the diameter of the string, it'll change your tuning slightly, and that ticks me off. I struggle trying to play guitars that don't intonate well. This is a new guitar, and it's driving me a little bit batty at the moment because it's not properly intonating. So it uses these little brass saddles, and they're straight, and they shouldn't be straight. They're straight for 2 strings. So you can get these ones that are staggered, and it puts them in the right spot. And basically, intonation means, for those that don't know, it's the tuning, how well the guitar tunes all over the fretboard. So when you play an E here, it should sound the same as that one there, and that one there, and they should all be in tune. But quite often when you tune your guitar, it's tuned to the open strings, and I'm just going to tune this while I'm talking because I don't like it. So if we change the diameter of the string, it will slightly change the tuning of your instrument, which is a pain. So for me, the strings have to be clean, at least clean. New is preferable. I got this guitar for my birthday the other day. Thanks, family. That was a really cool present. It's only a Mexican one, but I'm sure the good stuff comes out of Mexico as well. So it's not a crazy expensive Fender thing. So yes, it was my birthday the other day. I turned 32. No, I didn't. I lie. I shouldn't lie. It's not good to lie. What was I saying? So it was a cool present, but I think I need to do something with this to sort that thing out. So if the string needs to be cleaned, new strings preferably. So I've had this for a week and I've already changed the strings because the old strings I didn't like. So I like Elixers, and these are 9 to 42s. Before COVID, I was playing 10 to 46. And I think when you're not playing as much, your fingers get a bit wimpy, and my hand wasn't really liking the 10 to 46, so I went down. I'm hoping when we go back to playing more regular gigs, I will harden up and I'll maybe able to go back to 10s. But even the gauge of string has an impact upon, for me, for the feel of the guitar. I find with some guitars, especially this one here, the John Shaw model, this guitar loves 9 to 42s. And if I put 10 to 46 or 10 to 52s on it, it sounds different. It's got more of a lower mid-range to it, and the tone of the guitar is different, and I can't get as much of a funky sound out of it as I could if it's got 9s on it. Sometimes I've done 9 to 46 too. They're quite cool. Talking about the gauge of strings there for people that don't know. Alright, so clean strings, new strings, gauge of strings has an impact. And the action, very important, the action. The action is the distance of the string to the fretboard. That has an impact upon your sound as well. When I got this, the action was set up for a typical blues country dude. With the action was quite high off the fretboard. I like to lower it down so I get a little bit of, hang on, if I turn this down, you can hear there's fret bars in there. And you can't hear that when you play. Well, you can actually hear it when you play. But yeah, so I like to have it at a particular height, and I try and get it around 1 mil from the bottom of the string to the top of the 12th fret. And to me, that gives me a nice feel on the neck, and it has an impact upon the sound of the string. And I reckon that gives it a little bit of character, which is one of the things I really like. So yes, that was the first thing I changed. Number 3. So I've talked about the strings, everything system. So number 3 is the guitar. So obviously the guitar has an impact upon, looking at this camera, the guitar has an impact upon your sound as well. If you want, it's back here. If you want country, no better place to turn than a good old Telecaster. So I have never had a Telecaster before, and I'm sort of enjoying it at the moment. But if I want to do a hardcore metal thing, that's probably not the best place to go. So trying to find a guitar that suits the sound that you have in your head, and the requirements you might have being a part of a band. It's vice versa. If you went to a country gig, you had to play some country riffs, and you went in with this big 7-string Ibanez or an 8-string Strandberg headless guitar, they would probably look at you and go, what the heck is this dude on? So the type of guitar has an impact upon what you do. And I'm lucky to have a good enough selection to give me different sounds. And I used to be of the opinion that what do you need different guitars for? You can get the same sort of tones out of one guitar. I think that is true to a point. But there's certain little things you won't get from one guitar that you will get from another. On a gig, I probably like to stick with one guitar because I find it a little bit hard to adjust in the room if I'm playing, I'm changing sounds too much. Guitar, cable. Good quality cable goes a long way. And not only you can take cable between here and your amp, but if you've got pedals in between, that has a massive impact upon the quality of your sound and the feel of the instrument as well. I've had cheap cables, I've had expensive cables, and the expensive ones are good. But I've also bought some half decent cable and put some really good connectors on it, and that's got me just as good as well. But you do notice, especially if you're plugging your guitar into a little Line 6 little combo with an 8-inch speaker, you're not going to hear the difference between a $30 cable and a $300 cable. Like, you're better off spending your money somewhere else. And if you've got questions on where to best spend your money, maybe give me a call. That's a whole nother video altogether. Good cables between your amp and guitar and between all your pedals, and have as less cable as possible, I find. If you've got massive cables and you've got 100 patch cables with effects pedals in between and battery connectors, like, it just adds to the confusion of what's going on. And there's nothing more true than just plugging your guitar straight into your amp, zero effects, zero send and returns with delays and all that sort of stuff, and just plug in, because it's just, nothing like it. Especially if it's a 100-watt amp and you're playing through a 412, or I even played through a 2 412s one night. That was really cool. It was a good experience. The Sandman didn't like me that much. And in the second set, he actually came up and said, "Hey, you using two 412s?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Can we disconnect the other one?" I went, "Oh, if you have to." That was in Darwin. One time we set up this, we got there and they had a wall of Marshalls. And they go, because obviously when you fly, you get a back line. And that was with Original Sin. So if there's any Original Sin dudes watching, we walked in and there would have been 8 Marshall cabinets, double stack. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with heads all along the top, and only one of the heads was working, and he had one plugged into one cabinet, and I sneakily got another speaker cable that I found in the backstage and plugged the second one in, which was awesome. But I got in trouble. So, what was I saying? Cables. So guitar straight into an amp is a good amp, is a good thing. And then we go down to the amp itself. So once we get past our cables, the amp has probably, for me, the most impact. Some people use pedal platform amplifiers, and I've done that in the past. Sorry, I just read a comment then and I got distracted from my line of thought. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, for me, amps have a big role in my sound because I've got all that dirt and distortion you're hearing is from the amp itself. If I turn that really clean, so there's no pedals. Oh, there's a delay pedal. You can hear the delay pedal. But to me that sounds a bit gay. If you add a little bit of compressor, that can sort of cool it up a bit more, but nothing speaks like a little bit of hair on the amp. And to me that amp sound is where it's at. So I find sometimes I put a little bit of boost in front of it, which is cool. Like if I had a bit of boost in front of that, you can see I get a bit more sustain. But if I change channels to my that's really ballsy. And for me, as not a pedal platform dude, but an amp dude, that's where most of my tone controls reside. And getting your EQ balance right for me is important. Having too much bottom end can have a negative impact upon the feel, or too much treble, or not enough mids, or too much mids, or has a big impact, especially with different cabs. So if I've got I've got a little 112 cab, that will have a different EQ with my curve than the 412 cabinet, which is over my shoulder. That one there, that one there. Oh, no, wrong way. Turn my hand that way, that one there. Or I've got a 212 box here, and I actually made that one with some interesting designs to give me the results that I was after with dispersing the sound throughout the room, which is probably the next link in the whole amp and cab thing. And this is sort of where two worlds sort of split. For a long time I was using the Axe FX, as a lot of you would probably know. I've got Andy, and my brother-in-law Andy's watching. Go on, explain impedance. You want to. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. All right. Probably because I half know. I sort of understand, but explaining it's a different story. What was I saying? So with the cabinet, this is where I reckon the guitar world splits. So a lot of people like the amp in the room thing. Some people like going direct. So direct is where you would replace the speaker cabinet with some sort of software or even an audio device that emulates a guitar cabinet, and that goes direct into the front of house. I have in the past, when I was running the Axe FX, I was running both. So I had a split coming out going into an amp, a power amp, and it was actually a 1,000 watt power amp, and I actually burnt out a quad box, that one there. I burnt it out. I had, what was it, that one? Maybe it was the 212. I killed two speakers, so it might have been that box there. Where's my hand going? This one here, that's a Laney 212, and that's got no speakers at the moment because I took the speakers and I put them in that one there. But I was running my amp into that, and I think I was running 5 because it's a stereo amp. You can split it. You can either run it in mono at 1,000 watts or split it and run 500 aside. And I think I was running 500 watts into two 75 watt speakers all night. And the box got quite hot. And at the end of the night, the speakers were not sounding very good. So I would suggest not, if you're running a powerful amp, don't burn your speakers out. Just be careful. You can actually do it. I was just over enthusiastic that night, and I was trying to keep up with a loud drummer, and I cooked the speakers, which was really cool. It smelled really fun too. Like, yeah, it smelled like something was burning really nice. What was I saying? Speakers. So yeah, so before I was running the Axe Effects, I was running it, splitting a stereo out into a stereo amplifier, running a real cabinet on stage, as well as running a stereo output to the front of house guy with cabinet emulations on them, and he would use those to balance the sound through the PA, and I was just using the guitar cab to give me that real amp vibe on stage, which worked really well. But we'll be back to this camera. One of the things I found was, because I was running quite a lot of probably delays, a little bit of chorusing and stuff, what I was hearing out of my guitar cab didn't essentially match what was coming out of the PA. So I'd find where I'd set the effect level, because I always use a expression pedal to affect how much level I have in my delay. So I've got one hooked up at the moment to this delay. So you can hear there's a little bit of delay there, but I can actually add more in with the touch of my foot, which is a really cool thing. Are we back to this camera now? Yes. So I was blending in the delay, but it felt like it was out of kilter in the front of house. Probably something to do with the frequency response of the cabinet sim mismatched with the cabinet. And I actually, at one point, captured the sound of my guitar cab and was running that back to this camera, running that alongside the alongside the, you know what I mean, which balanced things out a little bit more, but still I felt it's not controlled. And so I can't remember which way I went. I would either go all cab sims and get a fallback. Sometimes would bring a fallback wedge, or I'd go all amp and not feed the sound man any impulse responses. That way I know if I'm feeding in, what's coming out of what I'm hearing is the same what's happening at the front of the house. So, like I said, that's where we can either go down and buy an Axe Effects or a Line 6 or some sort of amp sim with a cab sim in it and run it straight into the thing, which gets good results. But for me, I did a gig where we had to bring in some simple gear, and I bought in a Boss Katana. I don't have one in the room here. If you haven't played a Boss Katana, they are a really, really cool little amp. They're not... they probably are a bit digital, but it's got a really cool feel about it. And one of my students bought a Katana this week. He's, man, this is amazing. And yes, they are really cool and they feel really good. And I had that feel of that real amp under my fingers. It was like, I miss this, because when you're running into a digital unit, you're getting latency. And latency is the time from when you hit the string, the signal goes down your cable through whatever you got, pedals or what, into the amp simulator. The converters convert that into ones and zeros into digital world, and then does what it needs to do, processes the sound, and then it converts it back out of ones and zeros back into analog and out into a speaker that you hear. So there's a time delay that happens there, which was taking away the feel that I sort of didn't realise I was missing. So it's funny, the Axe Effects is like a $3,500 piece of kit, and I picked up a little $500 amp and realised that I'd missed something for a while. So that's where I made my path back to amps again, and sold the Axe Effects and traded my way back to a Victory amp. So the amp that I've got now is a little cool little thing that switches between 130 watts, which is really cool. And I think being aware of those things, especially because a lot of guys, I think Shane was talking about, he's getting looking in the studio monitor so he can run his guitar into an interface and run amp sims, which is really cool. But I think when you do that, the biggest hurdle you need to get over is with your head, because often a lot of guys plug into amp sims or that type of thing, and it just doesn't feel the same. It sucks. Well, you've got to adjust your mental approach towards it. You can't go in expecting to get the same result. Having a 412 pumping 500 watts out of it is a different experience to having a 10-inch driver and a horn in a PA box speaking back to you. It's totally different. You need to shift your thinking. And that was one of the bigger things. When I was doing playing live, I would... some people switch their impulse or their cab sims to the sound. So if they want to do a U2 thing, they would have like a Vox AC30 sound, and then they would go for a Marshall thing, and they would switch over to a Marshall amp with a Marshall speaker simulator on it. And I found that did my head in. I had to have one speaker sim. I could change the amp around, but if I changed the speaker sim as I was playing live and it flipped, the frequency response in the room would mess me up, and it would change the dynamics of what's going on. So I found if I stuck with one impulse response and changed my amp and my pedals or the sounds around that actually works a lot better. Well, it did for me anyway. You might have a different ear than I do. So what I'm talking about is not gospel. It's the gospel according to Matthew. So going down that whole... So once we've sort of finished our amp thing, there's obviously you got things after that. If we're playing live or in the studio, we've got the microphone. What is the microphone plugging into? After that, and that's generally some sort of what's called a mic preamplifier, which takes the signal of the mic, and you can adjust things like gain, structure on the microphone, or EQ or compression. Then it might go into a PA or a recording setup. And then it'll come out some speaker. It might be a studio monitor or a powered speaker if you're at a live venue. And then the last thing that can have a massive impact upon your sound is the room. And I think this is the one that a lot of people dismiss or forget about, which will do your head in if you're not careful. And this is the one that took me a lot to get my head around. But once I had, I could generally get really close to where I wanted to go pretty quickly with my amp. And I think obviously different rooms have different impact, because some rooms are really bassy. Some rooms have got lots of top end treblies, like especially if you're playing at the Bull and Bush. Who's ever played at the Bull and Bush? And they've got this glass wall right next to you. Yeah, it's got a curtain in front of it, but it's still glass behind it. So there's reflection coming off. So it was a really loud, really, really, really loud little stage. And the drummer's sitting basically right beside you, smashing his cymbals, which is reflecting off the room. Plus you're hearing your guitar sound bounce around the room, plus reflect off this wall. So the environment has a massive impact upon what's going on. Even in the studio environment. Here, it's probably not ideal because it's a smaller room. I would have preferred to have taken over the living room rather than the garage, but you get what you get. My mate Rob has taken over the living room, and we might actually get him on Zoom next week to show us how he has taken over the living room with his drum kit. He sent me a photo the other day, so I think we'll definitely get him on the program next week, and we'll get him to show us how he's taken over the living room, and maybe we'll even see the tiny little space that Jen has to sit in when she watches the TV. Poor girl. So the room has a massive impact upon what you do, because like I said before, if I'm playing and the bass is too strong or the treble is too strong and I'm not hearing a balance thing with my frequencies, I can feel levels of discomfort, or especially if you're clashing with cymbals. So if you've got a drummer sitting right next to you with cymbals and all your guitar energy is in those same frequencies, you're going to get lost and you're not going to be able to hear what you're playing all that clearly. So you've got to make sure you separate yourself from the other sounds in the room. I even find when I've played with other bands, takes a while to dial in with that because each band plays different. Like the bass player might have a different low frequency energy that another bass player might, or the drummer has a different drum kit which has an effect in the room. So, and really, at the end of the day, we listen to music in an environment. We don't always have headphones or any monitors. You could go down that way, but I'd prefer to listen to the room to hear what's going on. So what was I saying? So yeah, so dialing in all these things, and that's my 10 points. That's the thing. So if I go from the top again, everything works as a complete system, right from the strings down through the guitar, the cable, the amp, the speakers, the mics, the recording input, the monitor section in the room. So if we're aware of all of those factors, it's going to make it easier for us to fault find. And when I say fault find, if you've got a crackly lead, obviously you're not going to go to your speaker and go, why is this crackly? You've got to have some common sense to go, okay, when I move my guitar, it goes crackle, 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 you can find that. But not that fault finding, the tone find fault finding. Because there's so many different things. Like if you're lacking top end or high frequencies in your recording, and I'm monitoring it through these headphones, and I go in and dial out my amp, it changes the way the amp feels. Just like if I dial all the bass out of the amp, it changes the way the amp feels. So sometimes I've got to dial up those frequencies and dial them back somewhere else. But the biggest thing, especially if you're working with a modeler and you're dialing in your sounds at home, back to this camera, be aware it's going to be different when you get it to the gig because you're going to turn up. And there's a thing called, I think it's the Fletcher Munchausen's. No, that's something else. There's a thing where you turn up sound in a room, different frequencies, because of the nature of the room, have an emphasis where if you turn it down, it sounds different. So if you're practicing your amp modeling thing and you're dialing in sounds, go, man, this is sounding sick, and you get to church or a gig or wherever you're playing or practicing, it sounds like rubbish. Why does it not sound the same? Is because, back to this camera, it's because it's a different environment and you're treating that environment differently. I find with the guitar cab that I made, that one there, it's a 212 box and it's got this ingenious port at the back, and I'll show you one day, that I sort of pinched the idea of some dudes on the internet. Bareface Cabinets is the guys. Go check out Bareface Cabs. And they do this thing where it disperses the high frequencies and the mid frequencies out of the back of the box, and you get less of that laser point beam thing that you get from a lot of guitar amps. I don't know if everyone's ever experienced that, and it fills the room more than being super focused. So yeah, when you're practicing at home dialing your tones, you need to be aware it's going to change when you get into a room. And I always had a separate EQ on the back of, where are we? Back of my amp simulation thing, where I could dial in just a little bit more bass, more mids, or some treble to balance it in the room and to get that sweet spot that I had in the studio. And getting to know your studio as well, or your headphones. These headphones have a lot of bass. So if I mix something, I've got to be aware, hang on, it sounds bassy here, but when I put it on my speakers, it sounds different. When I take it into the car, it sounds different. When I go to a gig, it sounds different. So we've got to be aware of those things. So being educated in all that, I reckon, is a handy thing. But nothing beats experience. And I found when I was gigging quite a lot, like I said, I could dial it in quick. But the last gig I did was with Chris Cook, filling in for Ange Saldudas, and I was all over the place. I hadn't played for good 7 months before that gig, and getting in a room, turning it up, it was like, I had to find my feet again, and I didn't want to offend the sound man and keep turning up or down. And the guys just said, dude, just turn up. So I just turned up, and it was a whole lot better. So sometimes you just got to do the thing that you think might that might offend the sound man, but yeah, just yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust some settings. Stream bitrate is lower than the recommended bitrate, so I'm going to up the bitrate. Sorry, just some YouTube tweakage. I'm hoping it's still working out there and that I haven't crashed and lost all my audience. Andy just sent me a message from probably not on me, but there's nothing more annoying than dialing a nice tone at home just to be utterly disappointed when I got used to it. Yes, that's very frustrating, especially if you spend a lot of time on it and you go, man, this is mad, and you're vibing on it. It's totally different when you get somewhere. And I think there's a lot to be said about practicing loud in a rehearsal space or wherever you can get. I remember hearing an interview from the old guitarist from Hey Hey It's Saturday band, Simon Patterson, I think his name was. He was a gun guitar player. Red Simons was the other guitarist in the band. I don't think he did much. He was a bit of more of a personality than a guitar player. But for those of you that remember Hey Hey It's Saturday, or old enough to know what Hey Hey It's, it was a cool show back in the day. He said he would once a week go to and rent a rehearsal space and turn up his amp and play at volume because it was a different experience than playing at home with a small amp, and that stuck with me for a long time. So that goes a long way. So if you dial in a sound in your small space, when you get to the big space where it needs to be turned up, back to the camera, you need to adjust and tweak in. So you're better off having settings for home, settings for live. And that's what I did. And at the end of the day, I got down to maybe one or two patches for a whole show, and I would just stick on that the whole night, and it would work. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. What's the time? It's 5 o'clock. So yeah, so the 10 things, yeah. I mean, that's probably hasn't been very useful for non-guitarist people, but hopefully has been somewhat entertaining for you, those who are not guitar players. Back to that camera again. I need a little red light that switches from camera to camera so I know where I'm at. So I hope it's been somewhat entertaining. If you've got, like I said, if you've got things you think would be good for me to just rabbit on about, feel free to send a thing. And do you like my little red subscribe thing in the window? See that? I'll flash it for you. See, I'm flashing. Can you see that? See the flashing thing? So if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. Click the like button and hit the notification bell so you get notified when things happen. Is that okay? Like I said, we've got the stream on a Wednesday for practicing. That's 12 o'clock. Our beginners thing 3 o'clock on a Friday and 4 o'clock on a Sunday. I'm not making any money on this at all. So, yeah, it's just it's important for us to keep community happening during these crazy, silly times, and to continue to be nice to each other. Nice to be nice to police and border security staff. Shane, if you're watching, we will be nice to you too. Yeah. So we might wrap it up there because it's now 5 o'clock, and I'm sure you all need to go and do things. You need to go feed the kids, feed the dog, get some dinner for yourself. I think I'm gonna cook some stone fried pizzas on the barbecue tonight. I think. Hopefully I've got gas. But yeah, so if you've got some things you think would be good to cover in the stream, feel free to send me some ideas. Some guys did send me some ideas, but yeah, send me some ideas now so I can think about it between now and next Sunday. And I was going to say something else, and I can't remember what the heck it was. Oh yes, well, I've been working with two of my drummer mates, Rob and Was, on getting some tracks happening for us to jam over the top of. So I've got a ZZ Top one coming and a song by Matt Schofield called Black Cat Bone. So if you're interested in doing some collab stuff with us, doing some video of you playing a solo or even some rhythm guitar, or if you want to sing, or Mitzi if you want to play trouser trumpet. I don't even know if Mitzi's watching today because I haven't seen any comments. Or kazoo, or if you want to do a cartwheel while the video happens, contribute in any way you want. Yeah, I will have the backing track soon, so we can all start madly recording and playing some stuff. And remember, like our talk last week, doesn't matter how awesome or sucky it is. It's about giving it a go, and having fun with it. We're not playing for thousands of subscribers. It's really just our little community of guitar music nerds. So there's no pressure. So if you want to do that, once again, send me a thing, and we'll have a look at that. All right. So good work, guys. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Go for a walk. It's still light outside. Go for a walk. Enjoy the daylight, because it's going to rain tomorrow apparently. All right. Goodbye. Have a good rest of your night.